Por más que toque en el sitio más caro y elegante, sonará ignorante, pero el barrio siempre está delante. No me tomen por farsante. Los que me conocen desde infante saben que soy el mismo que antes del que cante. ¿Me pillas? It's probably a good time to go ahead and get this thing started, isn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Real English Radio. This is Talking About Nothing, number 15 to be exact. And I am your host, the thoughtful, provocative, loving, caring, understanding, ever-present Tony Kaizen. And I'm just checking in with you, man. I know it's been a little while since I said what's up. And I figured it was time to check in, time to tap in, as some of us say here in the USA. Check in, tap in is essentially the same thing. Tap in is more like slang, you know. It just means to contact somebody, to give them an update or see how they're doing or receive an update, something like that, you know. Oftentimes when I talk to my brother at the end of our phone calls, we say, all right, bro, tap in, which is kind of like a way of simultaneously saying goodbye and also contact me soon, you know. Update me on your life soon. Let me know how you're doing, or let's make some plans or something. It just means hit me up or contact me soon. Like, all right, bro, tap in, you know what I'm saying? Check in with me soon. So I'm tapping in, man. I'm checking in with you. Hope everything is good from America to Africa to Europe, all the way out to Asia. Goddamn. Hope y'all are doing good, man. And I guess I should start the episode before I lose half of y'all. I should start the episode by letting y'all know that I got a couple of updates. The first one being that next week I'm going to be traveling for work, and it's going to be a long trip. At least 2 months, probably closer to 3 months, and I'm almost certain I won't be able to record during that time. And what that means, obviously, is there almost certainly won't be a lot of new episodes coming out during that time. So if and when that happens, just know that I'm not, most likely not, dead or injured or anything like that. I haven't fallen off the face of the earth. I will be back. As soon as I get back to the house, I will be able to record consistently and keep supplying you with the realest of English on the greatest of radios. You know what I'm saying? So that's one update. The second one, really, you know, not necessarily an update. It's just something I was working on the side and experimenting with. And I got this idea from a dear listener of the show. So shout out to you, Marcelo, de Argentina. Saludos, mi hermano. Te quiero muchísimo. And so I was talking to him about just real English radio and what's working and what could be improved. As a lot of y'all know, I love to get the feedback. I love to, well, like I said, know what's working and what's not, what can be improved, what y'all want to hear, and all that stuff. So we were talking about that, and he said something like, man, I love your podcast, and there's a lot of great podcasts out there, but one thing I think we as English learners need more of is still English that involves rich and natural and useful vocabulary, just spoken at a slower speed. Like if you just slow down and speak more clearly, that would do wonders for our comprehension, and we'd be able to learn more easily and get used to real English more easily. And then eventually we could listen to something like Real English Radio or talk to native English speakers and feel much more comfortable and confident. So I sat thinking about that idea for a week, maybe 2 weeks, I don't know, and decided to experiment with it. And I started let's call it a second project, a side project called Slow English Radio. And this project would be for like beginner, kind of like A2 learners all the way up to lower intermediate, B1, maybe even B2 level English learners. So if that's something that interests you, I'll probably leave a link to that project in the description of this episode. You can also find it linked on my YouTube channel. And even if it's not for you, if you know someone who's learning English and they're at that upper beginner stage, lower intermediate stage, and they can't necessarily follow a podcast like Real English Radio yet, but still want to hear daily English vocabulary and topics just at a slower speed, share that with them and see what they think, man. I'm looking for the feedback at this point to see if it's something that I should invest in and spend more time on. You know what I mean? I think that the largest part of the English learning market or audience, whatever you'd like to call it, is that upper beginner, lower intermediate group that's actively looking for stuff to learn English online. People at y'all's level, people listening to this podcast, obviously you're still hoping to learn English, real English, but it's not like you're spending 2-3 hours a day watching lessons about like the verb to be or simple grammar rules and stuff like that. I would like to imagine if you're listening to this podcast on the regular, you've already passed that stage. And so anyway, I thought it was a good idea to experiment with, and I'm gonna do it. Well, if I continue with it, I'm gonna do that podcast season by season. So season 1 is done now; it's active. I think I'll be able to finish season 2 before I leave for my trip. So be on the lookout for that. And the reason I'm telling you again is just because I want feedback on the project. What do you think about it? How it could be improved? How it could benefit beginners, topic suggestions, all that stuff. So check that out if it interests you, or send it to somebody that you think would be interested. All right, my friends, now let's get on to the stuff I really want to talk to you about in this episode of Talking About Nothing. The first one of my favorite subjects, really one of my favorite activities. I don't necessarily need to talk about it all day, but one of our favorite activities and subjects, which is football, soccer, the beautiful game. You know what I'm talking about? And specifically, well, I'll start with the Champions League, man. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because there's really not much to say. I'm sure any of the football fans listening to this right now either saw the game live or saw the highlights or at least heard about the fucking massacre that took place in Germany. What was that, last month? I think the final was in June. And what I'll say about the final, other than it's great to see a team other than the typical teams winning that competition, what I'll say is the most interesting part for me was seeing two distinct footballing philosophies battle it out on the field for 90 minutes. That was the most interesting part, because from how would I put that? From somebody who doesn't at all consider himself to be an expert or an analyst or anything like that, when I was watching the game, because I watched it live, I'm looking at Inter Milan as the classic defense-minded, kind of like an old school Italian team, you know, a heavy focus on defense. And you could see Inter was clearly waiting for their opportunities to hit PSG on the counterattack. That seemed to be the game plan. Like they were going to sit back and say to PSG, all right, go ahead and break us down, which you're not going to do because we're defensively solid. And then on the other side, you had PSG, which was the complete opposite. It was a very attack-minded, dynamic style of football, which is not to say that they were weak defensively. It's just that they were so much stronger and aggressive and intentional in their attack. And what's also interesting is the dynamism, which is something I love to see when you have if you're playing with the front three, how the front three will kind of rotate amongst themselves. So Dembele might start playing down the middle as a 9, but then he might switch places with Doué and go out to the right. Or I'm gonna fuck up his name, Kvaratskhelia. I know I said that wrong, but you know who I'm talking about. Number 7, goddamn. He might move into the middle or switch places with Doué, and then you have Barcola, and they all kind of rotate during the game, which makes it that much harder for the defenders to really get accustomed to the style of play. The midfield controlled the game from start to finish. Vitinha is a beast. Ruiz is fantastic. You know what I mean? Neves is looking great defensively. So just, man, I can't say enough good things about this current PSG side. I really can't. It's such a pleasure to watch them, especially during a time where a lot of teams, like a lot of clubs in football, have adopted this very robotic way of playing the game. I'm sure y'all know what I'm talking about. And I really just watch English football, but I imagine that a lot of other leagues are experiencing the same issue. And it seems to me that a lot of clubs are trying to emulate 2016, 17, 2018 Manchester City, like at the peak of Manchester City's dominance when they had this very systematic, like possession-based football where every player on the pitch was like a part of a machine. You know what I mean? And they had one function, and that's how they functioned. And they were just going to control the flow of the game from start to finish, take very little risks. And even if you knew what they were going to do, you couldn't stop it because the system was just that good. The players were trained so well and handpicked by the manager to fit into that particular system or style of play. And so I think a lot of teams tried to emulate that and say, well, this is working for them. Let's try and play that way too. And it made the game very boring to watch. I can't remember, before the Champions League final, I can't remember the last time I watched 90 minutes of football. Actually, I can, bro. It was the fucking Europa League final where Man United lost 1-0 to Spurs, bro. To fucking Spurs, bro. What a goddamn, bro. Anyway, I'm not gonna talk about that. Anyway, what I was gonna say, or what I was trying to say, is super happy for PSG. Luis Enrique has that team running like a well-oiled machine. And we saw that again in the Club World Cup when PSG absolutely demolished Real Madrid. Absolutely demolished. And it wasn't like they were playing against Real Madrid's reserves or the B team. You know what I'm saying? They were playing against arguably Real Madrid's best side. Their best starting 11, and just got demolished. Just like embarrassed, bro. Embarrassed. It made me so happy to see. It made me so happy. And I don't say that because I'm a Barca fan. I'm not, obviously. Y'all know that. I support United. But it made me happy to see PSG just demolish Real Madrid. I wonder what the fuck is going on at that club, bro. I wonder what's going on. Because on paper, there's no reason for them to get embarrassed to such a degree. But PSG right now in this moment is just looking fantastic. Unstoppable. And I wonder if this is the start of a nice little run from the Parisian side, you know? But anyway, it is summertime, man, and that means the summer transfer window is now open. Lots of players entering clubs, lots of players leaving clubs, you know? A lot of interesting deals being done. Manchester City has made some fantastic signings, at least on paper. We have to see how they perform. Chelsea's made a couple of good signings, even though they have like 300 people on their roster. I don't know what the fuck is going on over there. And the reason I brought that up is because I'm following mainly the transfer news from United. And so I just remember seeing all these reports maybe a month or two ago. I don't know, whenever the window first opened, all these reports about Bruno Fernandes and how he was linked with a lot of Saudi Arabian clubs. All these rumors about how he was going to go to Saudi Arabia and get that fat oil money check, go over there and just make tons and tons and tons of money and be a superstar, because obviously the Premier League is on a much higher level than the Saudi Arabian League at this moment in time. So even though he's slowly reaching an older age relatively, he's still one of the best midfielders in the world, if you ask me. So there were a lot of reports about that. And then I suppose, or I guess, at some point it was reported that he was going to stay at United. And the report was something like Bruno Fernandes decides to stay loyal to Manchester United instead of going to Saudi Arabia for the check, for the money, you know? And I just found that interesting, man. The idea of loyalty in football, because I think it's a bit of a double standard. And what I mean is, if you look at a player like Bruno, who came to the club in, I think 2017, 18, I don't remember exactly, but he's been here for a decent amount of time and has arguably been our best player for many years now. And so we've come to know and love this player more than players who have been at the club much longer, to be honest. He's our superstar. He's our hero, at least for a lot of us, our captain, you know? And the idea that he's supposed to stay at United with the hopes of winning something next season or in the next 10 seasons, because who knows how fucking long it's going to take for Manchester United to get back on track. It could be another decade, easily. So the idea that he's supposed to stay at the club instead of going to get more money or just play at a different club for a different challenge, to do something different, is strange to me. It's strange. Like if you had been working at Google for the last 8 years, doing a fantastic job for the company, making more money than you would ever need, but then Microsoft approaches you and says, we'll pay you 4 times what you're making now, and we think you can do great things for our company, would you be disloyal if you decided to go work for Microsoft? Like, no, bro. Shit is business. And the reason I say it's a double standard is because if the club decides they no longer want Bruno, they're going to sell him, and that's the end of it. Whether he wants to stay or not, that's just what's going to happen. So why does the club have no obligation to be loyal to the player, but the player has an obligation to be loyal to the club? You know what I mean? Or the fans. Because a lot of football fans, bro, let's be honest, they're not actually fans. They're what we call fair weather fans. This is a common term that we use, at least in America. I don't know if they say this in other English-speaking countries. But to me, a fair weather fan is the type of fan that only supports when things are going well, when the sun is shining, when the birds are chirping, partly cloudy skies, 21 degrees, you know what I mean? But if a storm is coming, if shit's not looking good, the team's playing like shit, they're not winning any matches, and it looks like they might even get relegated this season, now they're not supporting, now they're booing, now they're saying fuck this club, they're not watching the games, they don't wear the shirts anymore, they don't support. That's a fair weather fan. And a lot of football fans, bro, are fair weather fans. You know? I don't know if this is common in all over the world, but I watch English football, and I have seen fans of my club and fans of many other English clubs boo their own players, boo their own squad, just because they're not playing at the highest level. They had a bad game or a bad run of games, not scoring as many goals. Like, they start shitting on the very club they claim to support. Isn't that disloyal? Isn't that treacherous? I don't know. I'm just saying, I wouldn't be mad at Bruno if he went and got the check out in Saudi Arabia. Very, very, very low chance of us winning anything significant in Manchester for the next 5 to 10 years. There's a very low chance of that happening, if I'm being honest. So go get the check, bro. You know what I mean? And you might say, well, aren't you already making enough money, Bruno? You're already making millions. Do you really need more money? And I get the sentiment, but I frown upon what we call pocket watching. Pocket watching is the act of being overly concerned with someone else's financial situation. Meaning, you don't even know Bruno Fernandes or Drake or Kendrick Lamar or Ronaldo or Neymar or whatever, pick a person. You don't even know these people, but you're sitting at home like watching reports about and commenting on how much money they make and what they do with their money and what they should be doing with their money or their time or whatever. That's pocket watching. You're like, oh, you already make $7 million a year. Do you really need more? It's like, why are you watching my pockets? Because figuratively, like if you think about where we typically keep our money, it's in our pocket. And you're watching someone else's pocket instead of focusing on your own. That's what we mean when we say pocket watching. Thinking about someone else's money instead of your own. That's a very common thing, you know? So the argument that like, oh, don't you have enough money? It's like, bro, the same could be said about people who aren't millionaires. You know what I mean? Should you not try to get promotions or get a better job that pays more? Like, don't you already make enough? It's a weak argument. And at the end of the day, Bruno has to look out for Bruno and his family and whoever else he supports financially, because it's business. It's just business. I know that we as fans romanticize it and we say, no, this is a way of life, and we support the club and we wear the shirts and we sing the songs. But bro, if no money was being circulated, there would be no football. Let's just be real. So I say every player should do what's best for them. Now, I will say it depends on the situation, because with Trent Alexander-Arnold, for example, Liverpool fans aren't even necessarily mad that he went to Real Madrid. They're mad about the way he did it. They feel like he was being shady. You know what I mean? Where reports were coming out that he knew his contract was coming to an end, and Real Madrid likes to buy players on a free transfer. So they approach the player 2 or 3 years before the contract ends and say, hey, we'd like to have you, but we don't want to pay the release clause 30, 40, 50, 60 million. So once your contract ends, come on over to Madrid and we'll treat you real nice. And so reportedly, that's what happened with Trent. He started learning Spanish like almost 2 years before the end of his contract. He was planning this all along, refusing to negotiate a new contract with Liverpool, but wasn't telling anybody I actually plan to go to Real Madrid. Then at the end of the season, he just announces, hey, I'm leaving. And so a lot of Liverpool fans took offense to that. And I mean, you know, situations like that, I understand what they mean when they say, oh, this dude's a piece of shit, or he's shady or whatever. And it's not that I agree. I'm just saying I understand. But it's like, bro, it's so easy to have an opinion on what somebody else is doing with their life or their career. It's like, what are you doing, sir? What are you doing? You know what I mean? Same thing with, I'm not even going to get into it, but same thing with Neymar. I've talked about this on the podcast before, bro. It's like so many opinions about one man that nobody knows personally. It's fascinating to me. But anyway, moving on. What else did I want to talk to you all about? Artificial intelligence, y'all. Artificial intelligence. This is another interesting one, because I don't know if y'all have been following what's happening in the world of AI, but recently Google released what they call VO3, VEO and the number 3, which is their AI video generator. It generates relatively realistic looking video and audio. And I say relatively because anybody who's been following the AI stuff can probably see that it's obviously AI generated, but I think it's already at a point where, depending on the kind of video and what's happening in the video, the average person who doesn't follow this shit would have no idea they're watching something fake. You know what I mean? Like it's getting really, really good. And similar to ChatGPT 3, VO3 is really only the beginning. And to me, the difference is with ChatGPT 3 or 4 or whatever, I think there was a lot of hype in the beginning and everybody was going crazy. It's going to replace this job and these people. And oh my God, you can do this and that. And it is an amazing technology. You can do a lot of shit with it. However, after a while, it's just like, it's a tool like any other, kind of like a calculator. You still have to put in the right information. You still have to think critically to use the tool properly to get amazing results. It's not just going to think for you and do everything for you. You know what I mean? So it's fantastic, but it's not everything it was hyped up to be in the beginning. Whereas with the VO3, the AI video generator, also AI image generators, now we're talking about a technology that can be used to deceive and manipulate lots of people very quickly. Because ChatGPT is just text-based. I mean, it can generate images, but it's not great at it, in my experience. But tools that were made specifically to generate images and more specifically videos, especially as they get better, I can think of a lot of dark, twisted ways to use technology like that to not only manipulate and deceive people, but to destroy a lot of people's lives. I can think of quite a few. And I'm not going to mention them, but what I'm saying is I know there are people much more twisted, much darker, and much more capable than me that are either currently using or will be using this technology to cause a bit of chaos on the internet, you know? It's interesting to think about, man. Like, what does the internet look like when 50 to 70 to maybe even 100%, not 100, but let's say 50 to 70% of the content you see on Instagram or TikTok or even Twitter, but let's say video-based platforms, even YouTube, is AI generated? What does the internet look like? What is the internet, the experience of the average internet user when you can't even distinguish AI generated video and just natural video recorded by a real person? And the obvious example would be like watching the news and it's all AI generated, you know? And of course you could argue that whether it's humans or AI, they're lying anyway. That's a topic for its own episode, but you get my point. But there's other examples too. I mean, just imagine if there are multiple images of your face on the internet, somebody could take those images and make you do whatever they want in a video, say whatever they want in a video. And once it gets good enough, the average person is not going to be able to tell that the video is fake. And they're still going to watch the video. You understand what I'm saying? Like, the average person is not going to verify information. They're not going to ask whether or not it's real or fake. We're already like halfway brain dead scrolling on TikTok for hours anyway. You think I'm going to stop and ask myself, is this real? If I'm not even like following the world of AI, if it's not even at the forefront of my mind, why would I stop and ask myself, did this really happen? You know? Because let's be honest, bro, the average human being, not the smartest. I don't mean to sound arrogant, but come on, man. You know, so just what does the internet look like when the average person is consuming a bunch of content and media that was made with an artificially intelligent software program? What are all the ways that technology is going to be used? You know what I mean? I've already seen some very good videos, man. A lot of entertaining shit, funny shit, some darker shit, to be honest. So I'm curious to see where it's going to go, knowing that this is only the beginning. This is only the beginning. You know what I mean? I don't know if this is true, but I saw just the other day, one positive in terms of content creation is YouTube specifically. And again, I don't know if it's true. I just saw reports about this. Apparently, they're not going to monetize videos or YouTube channels that are AI generated, which to me is just fucking fantastic. Fantastic, because that's another thing I was worried about is people will just begin to use AI to write their scripts and create the sound or the voice and the video and just write a couple of text prompts and produce video after video, just endlessly upload hundreds of videos per month, hoping to make serious money with the shit. You know what I mean? And I'm not against making money off of videos, but it's almost like, what is the point? This isn't even what YouTube is about. You know what I mean? It's like cheating to a certain degree. And that's where, what's interesting about that is that's where it gets a bit muddy. That's where it becomes like a gray area. Because if we take that idea of using AI to produce a YouTube video from start to finish, and then uploading it and monetizing it and making money, a lot of people would view that as cheating, because it's like, bro, I as a human took who knows how many hours or days or weeks to do the research and the planning and the scripting and the editing, etc. And you come in with this AI bullshit and you pop out a video in an hour and you get who knows how many views and you're making more money than me. This is bullshit. And I understand the sentiment. But at the same time, bro, it's hard to define or hard to figure out where the line should be, because if we talk about AI generated media in general, I'm not totally against it. I'm really not. Like if we take movies, for example, a lot of people, if you ask them, would you watch a movie that's totally generated by artificial intelligence? I'm sure there's a percentage of the population, big or small, that would say, no, I'm not watching that shit. Why the fuck would I watch a fake movie? It's not even real people. It's not real acting. It's not real anything. It's just a computer program. Why would I watch that? But I have to imagine there's also a big or small percentage of the population that says, yeah, as long as it's good, I'm going to watch it. Who cares if it's real or AI or something in between? Who gives a shit? As long as it's entertaining, I'm going to watch it. And on top of that, if you talk about the people who are producing this media, whether it's movies, music, images, etc., you still, as the producer, have to use these AI tools in order to achieve the result that you're looking for. So again, with movies, it's like, yeah, the actors aren't real people. Yeah, the soundtrack wasn't made with real instruments, or whatever, the script was written with the help of artificial intelligence. But still, whoever used the AI tools to achieve that result was still doing work. They were still using their brain. You know what I mean? You're just the producer at the end of the day, especially if you're doing it all by yourself. I mean, it could be with a team using multiple AI tools, but let's say you just do it yourself. Let's say you're an incredibly creative person with a lot of ideas and you don't have millions of dollars to invest in some Hollywood studio. But now, thanks to AI, you have these tools that will essentially help you get to as close to the actual result as you possibly can. So you come up with the characters and the backstories, and you use ChatGPT to help you write these stories, the profile for every character. Then you use some AI image generator to create the physical appearance of that character. And you work with it and you work with it until you get the character looking exactly the way you want. And you learn how to make that character, how should I say that? You learn how to consistently produce that character with the AI image generator. Because anybody who's used the technology knows for a long time, it was impossible to get the same character in multiple images. Like you say, create an image of a Black American man wearing a red shirt. If you do that 10 times, you're going to get 10 different images. Whereas now, people have been experimenting and learning. They figured out how to get the same character across 10 different images. So the same face, height, features, and everything, wearing different clothes in different settings. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to learn that. It's a skill, the same way you learn to use a camera, or you learn to write, or you learn to act, or whatever. It's a skill. And then you learn to write the scripts. Like so you still have to be a good storyteller. And ChatGPT might help you to edit and revise stories, the first, second, third draft, and all this shit. AI voice generators, tuning the voice to get it exactly the way you want, the right intonation, the right intensity, the right feeling and mood. The soundtrack, the sound design, right? The background music and all that shit. There's so many things that go into designing and producing a piece of visual content. And just because you're using AI to create all of it doesn't necessarily mean it's cheating. It just means that you're doing it for a lot less money. You see what I'm saying? So I don't think that it's totally invalid. Because at the end of the day, bro, you could spend $10 million on a movie and it's still shit. It could still be trash just because there's real people holding the cameras and the microphones and real people acting and doing the makeup and a real director and all of that. A real producer doesn't mean it's going to be good. And at the end of the day, I think the majority of people just want something good. So if the AI video and sound and imagery gets so good that it's impossible to distinguish from real humans, a real environment, I don't think the majority of people are going to care that it was made by AI. I think they just want to watch something good. And there's a lot of people with a lot of good ideas that don't have the money that people in Hollywood have. And so now with these AI tools, they can take their dreams and realize them, or their ideas, their visions, and realize them. I don't see anything wrong with that. I really don't. For example, there's this YouTube channel that I subscribe to called Home Alone. And like if I'm working at home on my computer, for example, or writing a script for a podcast or in research, I like to have some music playing. But it needs to be instrumental music, because if there's words, then of course I'm focused on the words. I might be singing along. It's distracting. But if it's just like some good instrumental music, then I can play it, and it's I'm not gonna say it helps me focus, but it's stimulating in a way, right? So I found this channel, and it posts these long playlists or compilations of different instrumental tracks, and it's exactly the style that I love, which is like a jazzy kind of house music, where there's lots of wind and string instruments, but also percussion, and there's no words. Anyway, I'm listening for a couple of weeks, and then for whatever reason, I click on the description of one of the videos, and right there at the bottom, I see something like produced with artificial intelligence or AI generated content or something like that. So I started to investigate, and I see that on every single video. And if this is accurate, what I came to understand is that each and every one of those playlists or videos or songs or whatever was totally AI generated. Those weren't real people playing real instruments. It's totally AI generated music. Somebody sat down and described what they wanted to hear, put it into the program, and the program released a 2 or 3 minute song. And they did that 8 to 10 times, made a compilation and put it on YouTube. And it sounds fucking great. I gotta be honest, I don't care that it was made with AI. It sounds great. I love it. I love it. So that's what I'm talking about. It's like, oh, it's not, it wasn't made with, those aren't real instruments you're listening to. It's like, so fucking what, bro? So what? So what? You know how many hip hop songs are made essentially with the same technology? It's just a human pressing the buttons on the beat machine, or the humans pressing the buttons on the electric piano. Artificial trumpets and saxophones and violins and shit. Artificial 808s, artificial kick drums and hi-hats and shit. I don't give a fuck. It sounds dope, bro. It sounds good. So I think that a lot of people won't care. That's what I think. And I also think that at the end of the day, talent is what matters most. AI is just another tool that allows talented people to produce something great for a fraction of the cost of a Hollywood production. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, I'm excited and concerned about the future of AI and all the different ways it's going to be used, of course. And speaking of different ways that it's going to be used, bro, this is something else I thought about recently, which is how artificial intelligence is going to affect the world of language learning, teaching and learning foreign languages on the internet. I'm very curious to know how this space is going to be affected, how it's going to change the way people teach, if it's going to completely, what would I say, eradicate the need for language teachers, or if it will never go farther than being a tool that teachers use to teach more effectively. If learners or students are going to prefer the AI programs because it's much more accessible, it's much cheaper, it's more efficient, and at some point, it's going to be as good, if not better, than having a human English teacher talking to you on Skype or Zoom or even in a classroom? I wonder. And if you ask me at this point in time, I think there will be a time when traditional English teachers will no longer be necessary. Of course, it'll start in first world countries where the AI technology is more affordable to people, but then slowly but surely it will become more efficient. It'll become cheaper and more accessible to people all over the world, and you just won't need to pay by the hour for a teacher. You won't need to pay by the semester at a school, and you can just like put on some VR goggles and some headphones and be immersed in an English speaking environment. Because again, the AI video will be so good, the AI audio will be so good, the AI text generation will be so good that you'll have a hard time realizing, or it'll be so good that you'll forget that the entire thing you're seeing in that VR world is fake. And what I'm talking about is just imagine you put on some VR goggles and some headphones and you're in a situation or an environment that resembles Grand Theft Auto. GTA, the game I'm talking about. The same way it's like a first person video game where you're walking around the city doing different missions. You can stop and talk to different characters. There's a storyline and all that shit. Just imagine putting yourself in that situation, and it's VR. So a bunch of super smart people wrote the lesson plan for the English learning course, lesson, whatever, and they're gonna have you walk through the city of Los Angeles or New York or Miami or Dallas or whatever, and you're just going on different missions. Go order food at this restaurant, and you'll, in the VR, walk up to a character, and you'll feel like you're there. It's first person point of view. You're gonna feel like you're there. You'll have a little microphone coming down from your headset, and you can talk to this AI-generated employee and order your food. And the AI will be programmed to respond to a number of situations, but it's so intelligent, even if artificially, it can respond to whatever you say in a way that's relatively natural because it's been trained to do so. You understand what I'm saying? Then the next mission, go catch the bus. The next mission, go get this girl's phone number. The next mission, pass this job interview. You understand? All these scenarios and situations can be created and programmed in AI. And with artificial video, audio, text, etc., you can create all this shit for a English learner to sit down at home in any country with an internet connection and experience. And they'll get feedback on what they're saying. You understand? They can replay things that have been said by the AI bots in case they didn't understand. And when they respond, there'll be something on the screen that says, correct this mistake, or explain what was said, or here's this cultural insight to make sure you say the right thing at the right time. Never say this because that's offensive to Americans or British people or Australians. You see what I'm saying? Like I've thought about a tool or a game like that for many years now. It's just I'm nowhere near qualified or experienced enough to try and create something like that. But I hope somebody does it, and I think they will at some point as the technology continues to get better and better. I have to believe anybody who's skilled and experienced enough in that area and has half a brain is going to come up with something like that for people to use and benefit from at some point. And at that point, what do you need English teachers for? You know? If the AI can generate any situation, prepare you for, specifically for you too. Like maybe you don't need to learn English or English for like a job interview. You're traveling for the next, month and a half across the Eastern United States. You need English specifically for situations you're going to find yourself in. Why do you need to know job interview or business English when you're just going to travel for a month and a half? So the AI will create a plan just for you and generate scenarios just for you. Or maybe you do need business English, so it's going to teach you that specifically. totally personalized English courses for every learner on the planet, all powered by AI. Like, I cannot express with words how difficult that would be for a human to do. Virtually impossible. You know what I mean? There aren't enough teachers in the world to make that happen. It just wouldn't happen, you know? But with AI, it's slowly but surely becoming a possibility, you know? So it's not all bad. You know, we think about the nefarious ways that people might use AI video, AI images, or audio, or whatever to deceive people. And just in case you don't know, the word nefarious, a very advanced kind of formal word. You're not going to hear that every day. You may never hear it again. To be honest, nefarious basically means malicious or evil or bad. So if somebody is using AI in a nefarious way, it means they have bad intentions, evil intentions. They intend to do harm to somebody. You know what I mean? They don't have good intentions. So we can think of a lot of nefarious ways that people will use the technology, but there's also a lot of brilliant ways they can use it too. Like the one I just described for English learners, man. I think that's going to happen at some point. Or I hope it does. I hope it does. For various languages, I mean, we talk about English, obviously, but that's for every language, man. Like, I would easily pay if I were seriously learning Mandarin Chinese or Farsi or Russian or Swahili or whatever fucking language, bro. It doesn't matter. If I was seriously learning a language and I needed to learn it in like a year, I would pay $50, $60, $70 a month for some AI technology with the VR goggles and the microphone and the headset. If it's going to put me in real world situations and I can basically play a real video game designed to teach me the language, I would pay significant amounts of money for a technology like that. I really would. And I'm sure a lot of other people would as well, you know? So I guess we just gotta wait and see, man. But that's AI. It's progressing every day. People are finding different ways to use it and abuse it, you know? And I don't know, just making the world, I don't know what is making the world more interesting, scarier. I guess it depends on the way you look at it, right? Could be positive, could be negative, but it is what it is. Now, another thing I wanted to talk to you about was globalization. Now, I don't know the dictionary definition of this word. I'm just going to tell you what comes to mind when I hear the word. And that is the process in which countries begin to open themselves to other countries and do business with other countries, interact with and connect with other countries. We become less divided culturally and economically and more interdependent, if you will. That's what I think of when I hear globalization. Countries becoming more open to one another in every sense. And the reason I want to talk to you about this is because I think that, well, I know the world is becoming much more globalized, and it has been for many years now. I'm sure that's not news to you. But when I think about globalization, because I've been thinking about this for a couple of days now, I think that it is a double-edged sword. And maybe you've never heard that term before. A double-edged sword is something that is equally good and bad, or simultaneously good and bad. Globalization, I think, is a double-edged sword because on one side, if we talk about the positive, I think that a lot of countries have benefited economically from globalization, meaning that they've opened themselves up to other markets and countries that produce things that they can't. You know what I mean? Like, if your country produces, I don't know, a lot of bananas, for example, and another country doesn't, and they need those bananas, well, if you guys open yourselves to each other and you become open to doing business together, now I can sell you bananas. Now we have an economic relationship. And now my country can make a lot more money. We can bring a lot more money into the country by exporting our bananas or our rubber or our coffee or our whatever, you know? You just have more people to do business with, is what I'm saying. And there are a lot of countries that specialize in one thing, but they're lacking in another, and therefore could benefit from working with other countries that specialize in the thing they're lacking and need the thing that they are strong in. You understand what I'm saying? You get the idea of like business. You get the idea that I'm describing, right? It's like I produce A, you produce B. We both need what we produce, so let's do some business and let's both prosper. You know what I mean? As well as like even if we're not talking just about economics, bro, I think the cultural aspect of globalization can be really positive too. Because what happens is as you get more and more exposed to other cultures, other people, different ways of life, different languages, you become much more familiar with people who have grown up in a way that's different from the way you grew up. And we as humans tend to fear what we don't know or understand. And so for a long time, we feared people from other countries, people from other cultures. And then the internet came along and started to, what's the word I would use? We gained the ability to distribute information very rapidly and for free across the world. So now somebody in America can learn about the way of life in Japan or Ghana or Turkey or whatever place. You can get online and learn about these people. You can learn their language. You can talk to them. You can see what they eat and how they live and what's important to them. You can travel to that country now that you've educated yourself on the internet on how to do it. That wasn't really a thing like 40, 50 years ago. My parents would never, ever in a million years just grab a backpack and go to Mexico or Colombia or Brazil or fucking Thailand. Just go. They would never do that. They had no way of learning the things that I learned about these countries on the internet for free. They had no way of talking to people from these countries for free. You know what I mean? But we do. And so I think for that reason, people are much more familiar with different cultures and ways of life, and therefore less fearful and less hateful too. Obviously, there will always be hateful people. The internet makes it easier to hate on people. But I would like to think that people are less hateful in general because they're much more exposed to other cultures and ways of life, and they see, they're just like us. We're all people, but they just have a slightly different way of doing it, or they value different things, or they speak a different language, but still just people. And in some cases, we speak a different language, but our cultures are very similar. You know, so that to me is one benefit of globalization, is people aren't as afraid of each other as they used to be. People are much more open-minded and willing to travel or interact with people from different places, learn different languages. You know what I mean? That was much less common before the internet became mainstream. And on top, I mean, like speaking again about language and culture, just the number of people learning to speak English with nothing but the internet these days is staggering, bro. Staggering. And I mean, like each one of these things I'm mentioning could be a podcast episode in and of itself, because there will be some people that are upset about that. The fact that English is becoming, or really already is, the international language, and a lot of people aren't happy about that. But generally speaking, I think it's a positive that so many people around the world are learning to speak a specific language that we can all communicate in. Obviously, I'm lucky to be born in a country where it's the first language, the what do you call it? The national language. I kind of won the lottery on that one, so maybe I'm a bit biased. But regardless of what the language is, I think it's good that whether it's a second or third or fourth language, So many people are learning to speak a particular language that we can all communicate in, you know? And I guess thinking back on the past, 7 years that I've been teaching the language, just the amount of people that I've worked with personally, or even just met and talked to, that have changed the trajectory of their life just by learning English. People have pulled themselves out of poverty just by learning English. Like, that to me is remarkable, bro. That is remarkable. And one of the benefits of globalization, the world becoming more interconnected and people needing to interact with people from other countries and do business with people of other countries. This, I don't know, man, that to me is fascinating. And I know people, like I said, taught people to English. I've taught English to people who fit this description. And one of my closest friends is the perfect example of this description. He comes from a very, very poor neighborhood in Sao Paulo. And it's two things. Like, he works in the world of IT, and he's very good at what he does and studied hard and got the experience and everything. But anybody who works in IT or many industries that are heavily reliant on the internet, you know that professional expertise in your area only gets you so far. And just by learning English, you can go 5 to 10 times farther than you would if you didn't know that language. And that was his case. Just by learning to speak English proficiently. I met him because he was studying English in my city back in 2012, 13, 14, I don't know. Just by learning to speak that language, he was able to get much better jobs, move abroad. He now lives in Canada and is making more money than he could ever dream of making back in his home country of Brazil, where he still sends money to his family every month so that they can live a better life. All because he learned English, bro. Is that not incredible to you? Like, I've taught English to people in executive positions at Fortune 500 companies, very well-known companies. I'm not going to mention them, but I've taught, one comes to mind specifically, a guy that works for a very, very, very well-known company that needed to learn English for his career, to advance his career and get into higher positions. And he told me, and I'm going to paraphrase, these weren't the exact words, but he told me, listen, having professional experience is great, expertise in your area is fantastic. But at the end of the day, someone who speaks English proficiently and doesn't have the expertise in this area is always going to get the job before someone who has all the experience and expertise in the world but doesn't speak English. The English speaker is going to get promoted first. He's going to get the job over the expert in this field because it's not an option. It's non-negotiable. You need to know how to speak English, and you should speak it well if you really want to climb the corporate ladder, let's say, if you really want to go places in this company and advance your career. Blew my fucking mind, bro. The fact that, he said it and he meant it. Like, what I'm saying is, imagine working in a career field for 10 years, being an expert at what you do, and you apply for a job, making more money than you ever made in your life at this prestigious company, and you don't get the job because somebody who has 2 years of experience but speaks perfect English got the job instead of you. Just imagine that, bro. That's fucking crazy, man. That's crazy. And it depends on how you look at it. That's either a positive or a negative effect of globalization. So I don't even know if I was very clear in all the positives of globalization, but I really want to move on to the negative side of globalization, because this is what I've been thinking about for a couple of days now. And it's that, culturally speaking, this is really what I'm getting at. Forgive me for taking so long to get here, but this is what I'm getting at. I think one negative aspect of globalization is that a lot of places slowly begin to lose their identity. What I mean is, as more and more people begin to consume content on the internet, and as more and more people begin to travel to different places, each place slowly but surely starts to look and feel the same. Especially if you are one of those people that stays in the touristic areas. But even if you're not, like people in non-touristic areas outside of the major cities, they're still online. And globalization to me isn't just about the physical aspect, like going to that country to do business or interact with people. It's all online too. We live on the internet just as much, if not more, than we live in the physical world. And so, excuse me. So what I'm saying is, a lot of people consuming content on the internet are consuming content from the United States of America. All over the world, especially people who are learning English or who already speak English as a second or third language, like the majority of content on the internet is in English, whether it's written or it's audio or it's video. It doesn't matter. It's in English, and a lot of it comes from the US. And so what that means is a lot of people my age or younger, millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they're consuming all this American content. And what you consume, slowly but surely, is what you become. And so little kids, and I shouldn't just say kids, but people, because it's not just young people, but people in Mexico and Brazil and Argentina and Ghana and Nigeria and France and Italy and the Netherlands and Russia and China, Japan, South Korea, whatever. You pick a country, bro. People all over the world are consuming this American media and starting to emulate it. You know what I mean? They're all starting to act and talk and think like Americans that they see on social media. And it's not like from one day to the next they go from Korean to American in terms of culture and personality. It's just slowly but surely, people and places are becoming more not just westernized, but Americanized. And I'm sure this is true for many other countries and cultures. I'm using America as an example because I am American. This is what I observe, and I think it's the strongest influence of them all. I'm sure like Colombia is probably influencing a lot of other countries and cultures. Korea, for sure, is another powerhouse in terms of cultural influence. I don't know. I'm sure there's other countries, but I'm using America as the prime example. And what I'm saying is, again, that by consuming all this content and slowly beginning to like emulate what they see and hear, they're losing their original cultural identity and instead trying to become American, even if subconsciously. You know what I mean? Which kind of sucks. I'm not gonna lie to you. Kind of sucks. It kind of sucks, like when you go to a country like you, and again, it's mainly in touristic areas, but I think you can find this no matter where you go. But it sucks when you go to a place like, let's say, Bangkok, Thailand, and a lot of the girls I may meet or date, or let's just say interact with in certain parts of the city are clearly just carbon copies. Like they're clearly just trying to act like the girls I find here in the United States. Like you can tell it's a certain type of girl that just spends all her time on Instagram and TikTok watching American girls on Instagram and TikTok walk and talk and act and whatever, and she tries to imitate that shit. Not be. It's like she wasn't raised to talk or walk or think or dress or behave like that. It's just she's been consuming it so much that now this, to her, this is what's cool. So she tries to emulate that. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that in and of itself, because like it's cool to be influenced by whatever you're influenced by. It has nothing to do with me. You know, I mean, as an American, I'm just as individualistic as they come. So do whatever works for you, bro. I'm not saying you have to be like loyal to your culture and dress or talk or act or think a certain way. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it kind of sucks to think that no matter where you go in the world, there are people who are pretending, that's a poor choice of words, who are emulating stereotypical American internet culture instead of embracing and showcasing their own culture. You know what I mean? Like, to be even more specific, I think of how hip hop has slowly but surely gained major influence over so many people across the world. Something that I'm sure a lot of us never would have imagined happening. A lot of us never would have imagined that hip hop would become like the major influence in the world of music. No matter where you go in the world, you're going to find people that are listening to hip hop, and the same can't be said about other genres of music, I think. No matter where you go in the world, you're going to find people emulating the stereotypical hip hop lifestyle, and the same can't be said about every single other genre of music. Of course, rock and roll, but I think at this moment in time, 2025, hip hop has more of an influence on global culture than any other genre of music. I could be wrong, but that's my perception. And so if I get online, which I have, and I see like, I see some kids in Thailand, in like Bangkok, Thailand, or Tokyo, Japan, with fucking dreadlocks and tattoos all over the neck and the arms, with diamond chains and gold teeth, and sagging their pants, falling off their ass and shit, throwing up gang signs and shit. Don't even gang bang. Don't even understand what they're doing with their fingers. They're making gang signs with their fingers and shit, making Chicago-style drill music. You know what I mean? Just like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know? And again, I'm not the fucking culture police. I'm not one of those people that says, like, you can't emulate this culture because this is my culture. Like, this is cultural appropriation or whatever. I'm not one of those people, bro. Nobody owns culture. Nobody owns culture. It gets passed down from generation to generation. Nobody owns it. Anyone can emulate it or appreciate it. Like, I think the idea that you can't participate in or emulate a particular culture is fucking stupid. It's bullshit. But I do think it's weird when you don't know anything about a culture, you've never really experienced or interacted with it, but you begin to imitate it because you just want to look cool or you want money or fame. That's fucking weird to me. That's weird. So some kid, like, as I just described, some kid is like emulating some stereotypical like mainstream gangster rap or some shit like that, when they came from a fucking good family. They grew up with both their parents at home. They've never held or seen a gun, don't even know what gangbanging really is, and they're trying to like imitate niggas that they see in hip-hop videos or some shit. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to me, you know, because in situations like that, a lot of times it's like you don't even understand or appreciate or interact with the culture. It's just aesthetically pleasing to you. So you adopt all of the characteristics, but you would even walk down the street or talk to anyone that comes from that culture. You see what I'm saying? And I find it not just with hip hop, I just find a lot of that globally as a result of globalization. People consuming so much shit on the internet that is aesthetically pleasing, so they imitate it when they don't even really understand it or care about it or identify with it. It's just like, oh, this is cool right now, so I'm just gonna imitate this shit and this is who I am for the moment. That shit is weird to me. It's weird. And again, as a result, a lot of places and cultures are losing their identity and just becoming more and more, in this case, Americanized. In other cases, Koreanized or whatever other cultures have heavy influence right now. But I don't know. It's not good or bad. I'm not here to say whether or not it's good or bad. It's just weird. Well, that's contradicting myself because I did say negative at the beginning, right? It's a negative aspect of globalization. No, I do. I view it as somewhat negative. I do, yeah. It'd be dope if we could appreciate each other's cultures without trying to like mindlessly copy it because it's what's trendy right now or it's what's going to get us views or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's not even just about an international thing because when we talk about the internet, I notice the same thing here within the United States of America, bro. I'm not like taking shots at any culture in particular. I notice the same thing here is that people, individuals, are also losing their identity or their personality. Where it's like every girl who spends all day on Instagram and TikTok, they all talk the same, they think the same, they act the same, they say the exact same shit, they dress the same, just carbon copies of each other. Same thing with dudes. You know what I mean? Everybody's just consuming and regurgitating the same shit. It's like very few original thoughts or opinions or genuine personalities. And of course, I'm talking about the internet. I'm sure there are plenty of people who don't spend all day on a phone and they still have original thoughts and they're not afraid to be themselves and they live normal lives. I'm just speaking generally, bro, about one of the side effects of the internet and globalization. It's people, cultures, and countries start to lose what makes them unique, and everybody just starts acting and talking and thinking the same. And whether or not that's good or bad is up to you. It's a question of opinion, but it's something that I don't necessarily appreciate, you know? But, you know, what are you going to do, bro? What are you going to do? The internet's here. It's not going anywhere. And the fact that people are at least open to consuming stuff from other places, I guess, is positive overall because there was a time when that just wasn't happening. But I don't know, bro. I don't know. Just something I've been thinking about the past couple of days. And what y'all think about this subject, as well as every other subject I've brought up in this episode, I would like to know. I'm curious to know what y'all thoughts are on football and what it means to be loyal. The current state of football and such robotic, boring play, except for a few exceptional teams that still have some kind of identity and distinct philosophy. AI video, the future of artificial intelligence, how it's going to affect different sectors, how it's going to affect language learning and teaching, you know what I mean, as well as globalization and the positives and the negatives. And if you guys notice how a lot of people and countries and cultures are slowly becoming homogenous as a result of everyone consuming and reproducing or regurgitating the same shit on the internet. So let me know what y'all think, man. Let me know what y'all think. I don't know how long I've been talking because I'm recording with these wireless mics right now. So there's no timer or clock on these things. Hopefully this episode hasn't been too long. But regardless, I guess I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, man. I'm going to do my best to record more episodes before I leave, even though it's just a couple of days from now. But as I said in the very beginning of the episode, I'll probably be gone for closer to 3 months. Let's just say 3, just to be safe. So if you don't hear from me during that time, or a better way of saying that is when you stop hearing from me, when you stop seeing regular uploads over the next 2 to 3 months, just understand I'm working, but I will be back at some point in the near future. If I ever get to the point where I'm truly just like, I'm not going to record the podcast anymore, I will let you know. I'm not just going to disappear. So, yeah, for all the true real English radio listeners, all of y'all that download every episode and send love and all that shit, I will be back. Your boy has, how can I say, has not disappeared. Most likely, anything's possible. but yeah, I'll be back. I gotta be tired, bro, because I'm starting to ramble, starting to talk in circles and shit. So I'm gonna get out of here, man. That's it for this episode of Talking About Nothing on Real English Radio. I'm your host, Tony Kaizen, and I will talk to y'all, if not soon, at some point in the future. Much love to each and every one of y'all. All right? Peace!